I don't really have a whole lot to say. Um, well, actually, that's a lie. I I have a lot to say about homelessness in general. Um, and homeless youth and what homelessness means for our society and for the world. And I don't know. I mean, it's hard to get these thoughts out. There's plenty of the gut wrenching statistics, such as, 13 kids, die of homelessness every day. Um, there's always stuff like that. Um, in the past, I've kind of talked about my attempts to help, like, street kids, but I've never actually been in a position to actually be able to help because things didn't work out and because I wasn't actually at ground zero, so to speak. I wasn't actually with street kids, even in my abbreviated experience with helping, you know, at risk youth. And I just find it troubling because I think about homelessness a lot, and yet I feel like I'm still learning about it. Like, I still don't know exactly what it means. And I guess what I mean by that is that I think, holy crap, like, street kids really exist. Like, these are people, they're people that have been abandoned, that have been forgotten, that are in isolation, that essentially aren't valuable for society. Um, I know that in places like China, probably even in America, due to our militarized police, sorry about the rant, but there's some truth to it. But in India, if there's a street kid at the entry at the if there's a street kid, just leave it at that. If there's a street kid um, hanging out at a in front of a business, there's a good chance that the street kid sometimes might be killed. The businessman or the business people might hire somebody to finish them off so they don't tarnish the reputation. I write about some of this in my play Construct. Um, to tell the truth, I'm not coming up with excuses of why I can't help this population. But suffice to say, even though it's bad, I kind of fall on the excuse that no matter what I've tried and no matter what I continue to try, I continually run up against roadblocks with helping street kids. And so I've kind of burnt out already from helping them. But it's something that's very important to me. Homelessness creeps up in my writing a lot. Um, it's featured in four of my works, including my autobiographical novel called The Street Kid. And so obviously homelessness and even homeless youth is something I think about a lot. You know, kind of how unfair that is, kind of how it doesn't seem right. And I guess this is kind of just a plea. This little video is a plea to people to try to become more aware of um, homeless youth, street kids, to realize that they do actually exist, and to do the same thing with homeless adults as well. I mean, I don't think that kids should always have the privilege, just like adults shouldn't always have the privilege. Homelessness is homelessness. But, there's a myth, and I've heard it multiple times, even from people that I knew and respected, where they think that people that are homeless because essentially they want to be homeless. And that couldn't be any further from the truth, based off my research that I've done at least. Where sometimes it's circumstance, sometimes it's mental illness, um, sometimes it's drugs. And then once you end up on the street life, there's a lot of people that exploit you in really explicit ways. There's a lot of people that um, turn you into a kind of slave. There's a lot of people that use you. And as I said, I can't help but go back to the thought, the thought of like goodness gracious, um, street kids really exist. Like this isn't just something that you know, um, we dream about or write about in like a fiction novel, in a piece of fiction. That it's like a real thing, and that there's as we're speaking, there's somebody out there that's suffering. I talked to my friend Jeff, and he told me that he gets depressed sometimes because he as we're sitting here basically eating a burrito at this nice restaurant, a girl's getting raped, and so that makes him sad. And I thought it was kind of ridiculous when I first heard it, but just only because I thought, like we still got to focus on like our problems too. Like we can't help anybody unless we can think about ourselves. And I didn't think that it described me, but I realized that it does describe me. It does indeed describe me, and it describes me because I care. And you know, uh, it's cropped up. Like I said, this theme is cropped up in my writing a lot. Um, and it's done that because it's something that's very close to me, and I really wish that there was something I could do. Like I said, I've experienced a ton of roadblocks. I don't believe I have the tenacity to be able to pursue this. I obviously don't know how to write policy. I'm not good at problem solving. I'm never allowed on the ground floor. I don't run into street kids. I mean, there's so many variables and so many reasons of why I can't be of assistance, but that doesn't mean you can't be of assistance. And I don't want that to sound preachy, but what I do want that to sound is that yes, you can do it. You can help solve some of these problems. Sometimes it's as simple as just writing a check, even though I'll admit I don't know if I trust all of these organizations that supposedly help kids or, the homeless. But the main point is that, there's a reason why I care, and there's a reason why I decide to do crazy stuff like make random videos about homelessness. But the thing is, like, I really do care. And I want to spread that care, um, to other people, like the desire to care to other people where I can. And in the end, I don't know what this video is going to do. I mean, it may just be like philosophy, like reading something by Peter Singer where he talks about the cruelty towards animals and factory farming and experimenting on animals for science. But then how we go home and we eat a cheeseburger, you know, it's just academic philosophy. It doesn't have any bearing, or I might sound too much like an ethicist, and who needs an ethicist? Like in all honesty, like who cares? Like let's not be ridiculous, you know, because ethicists don't accomplish anything; they just write about nothing. But I guess my feeling is I don't really buy any of that. I feel like it's very important that we think about these issues. Street kids are our future, or could be our future, and instead they're stifled by abandonment. They're stifled by loneliness. They're stifled by a lot of stuff. Um, and it's interesting because the more that, I mean, I want to, I mean, I feel like I've come up with this theory that people that really care about problems in society, whether it's racism, for instance, whether it's mental illness, or for me, homelessness, although I care about other issues as well. Um, I have a theory that people really are good at pursuing those kinds of things, and that's where they make a difference. And I think that that's amazing. Um, I don't really know where I was going with that, just how I feel like a lot of people are really passionate about something. And I think I'm really passionate about this truth of homelessness, that homelessness really exists, and that there's people that suffer because of it, and how unfortunately we haven't done enough about it. And I'm saying this because I think that we do need to do something about it. And I know that I can't do anything about it. Maybe you feel the same way, you can't do anything about it. And I could probably do better and not delude myself on that. There's got to be something I can do. I just haven't figured out what I need to do yet. But that's my own problem. I can work on that. But as far as you, I guess this is my way of putting the ball in your court. Do you care, or do you not care? And that's what I think you have to ask. And I know that that's ridiculously, pathetically ethicist. Sometimes it's hard to get those words out. But in all honesty, like I care a lot about the homeless. And, it even came up in my first full length novel, Away from Home, which I don't know when I'm going to publish, but it even came up in that. And that was before I was even really thinking about homelessness as an actual concept. This feeling of abandonment, this feeling of loneliness, you know, of being on the streets and having no place to go, sleeping by the light of a gas station, for instance, which is, I think, a scene in Away from Home, um, a book that I'm very proud of, because it exemplifies that theme. And I'm just saying that because obviously it's important to me, and obviously I care a lot about it. But the thing is, it's not about what's important to me, it's about what's important to you. And I can only hope that I can convince you that it is important and that it's a worthwhile cause. You know, um, I think it's very easy in our modern day society to become desensitized to the terrible things that happen. So scientifically speaking, we're worried about climate change, so we may, in this macro sense, we may become extinct very soon. So what's the point of thinking about suffering? But then there's other ways that people suffer, such as through homelessness, such as through child abuse. There's various ways that people suffer. And I guess what I'm saying is, don't necessarily focus on like helping street kids per se, but I guess what I'm saying is like find a cause, find something you really believe in, and follow it to its logical conclusion or illogical conclusion, as I like to say sometimes. And I know that some people do that. I've seen them do that. But in my opinion, I think and I say we because we're in this together, we need to think harder about how we can solve this, how we can solve these problems. And I think that there's a reason why I believe in, and why I'm so obsessed with this concept of, you know, homelessness. I think there's a reason why, because I myself have never been homeless. I mean, there's times where I've almost been homeless, but I've never experienced homelessness. I've never lived a day on the streets. And yet I have this compassion for people that are homeless, even though I've never even really met homeless people, by the way. So explain that. You could call it God, you could call it providence, you could call it fate, you could call it my genetic coding, my genetic makeup, you could call it, my the essence of my soul. Whatever it is, it's there for a reason. And I really am going to do something with it. And I don't know what that is, but I guess I'm rallying to you, whoever is out there, to do something about it. And I know that this is intense. I know it's intense. And I apologize if this is like really ridiculous and offensive because it's like me pushing my beliefs or value systems on you. That's not my intent. What my intent is, though, is to definitely get you to think about this more. Because as Jacob Reese would say, we have to think about how the other half lives. And how does the other half live? Well, it's not very pleasant. I mean, we could even extend this conversation to the proletariat, which still I think does exist, the working class and all of the things that they have to go through. But of course, that's a whole nother can of worms. The point being that I feel like we have to care, and that's what Jacob Reese says is the problem is. The basic problem is very simple. It's not even philosophical. It's just that we don't care. And I think we should care. And it hurts me whenever I try to convey my passion for homelessness and I'm thwarted and I'm blocked by people in power and institutions, or I'm blocked and I'm not listened to by people that I respect. And I feel like that really hurts. Because, you know, it's not just important to me. Like, it's important for all of us. It's important for our well-being. And I wish that people would keep that in mind more. So I guess so much for not having much to say. But I know this is intense, but it's just one of those things that had to get done. I just spent the last like half hour crying, looking at pictures of street kids and how some of them managed to kind of look happy despite their situation. Some of them definitely were in pain, though. Many of them were in pain. And, you know, that pain makes me sad. And, it would be fine if it was taking place in art, like a movie, for instance, because even though it's based off reality, it's still fiction in a sense. But to see like real pictures like that is very disturbing and very troubling, and it makes me very, very sad. But anyway, there's not much that we need to do about that right now. Um, but I know this is a lot, and I hope that you can take it with a grain of salt. But find something that you care about and something that is going to really benefit somebody else. And